All right, man. Peace. So as we all know, Indiana Pacers star forward Paul George was recently traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder to be paired up with Russell Westbrick. I'm not sure how well they're going to pair up together. He's definitely going to have to take the back seat because, as we all know, Westbrick is really not going to share the spotlight. They do have some commonalities, though. They're both from the LA area, so they probably know each other. They're probably pretty well accustomed to each other's playing style. So we'll see. Do I think that Paul George is going to re-sign with OKC at the end of the year? 90% chance that he's not. But I also think that OKC knows that they have a good chance of losing Westbrick. So we'll see what happens.
Paul George is headed to Oklahoma City in a deal that will be official later this week. He was traded to the Thunder for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. George had informed the Pacers earlier this offseason that he preferred to go to the Lakers when he becomes a free agent next year. Skip, how will Paul George fit in with the MVP, Russell Westbrook?
By the way, congrats to Russell Westbrook for winning MVP. We weren't on the air that night either, or the next.
Go ahead and glow.
Well, I did call it. It was triple-double, but that's okay. Back to
And win
business.
MVP.
Yeah.
Anybody could see that they were going to give him the MVP. I said at the start of the season that he was going to get the MVP, either him or Harden, because the way that the NBA media narrative was building, they made him out to be the victim, right? He's supposed to be the scorned woman in their relationship with Durant, who treated Durant so well, and Durant just left him. That was the NBA media narrative. So obviously they were going to give him the MVP. James Harden was playing in a very James Harden-friendly offense with Mike D'Antoni, so obviously he was going to be the runner-up. The real MVP, like I've stated from the beginning of the season all the way to now, the real most valuable player is LeBron James. He is. I mean, that's pretty obvious with all the things that he does for the team, and as well as their win-loss record when he's gone. It kind of is a, it kind of almost is a symbiotic relationship, the effect that he has on the team to his value, because when LeBron comes on your team, you have to run a LeBron-centric offense because he doesn't play well off the ball. So any team that LeBron plays on, he's going to be an MVP. He's going to play in that style of play. He has to dominate the ball. He has to dominate the offense. Now, Steph Curry is probably the most malleable player in the NBA because he might be the only player in the NBA who can dominate the game, whether he has the ball or not, equally dominate. So that's why, a lot of times people don't understand the effect that Curry brings to the game. But that's neither here nor there. Let's see what they have to say about this issue.
Back to business.
Okay.
Paul George will be the perfect fit for Russell Westbrook. This was an all-time great deal and steal by a GM whose stock continues to rise in my eyes, Sam Presti, who did, I remind you, draft in order Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden.
And is probably about to lose them in a similar order. All right? You're going to lose Durant and Hardhead and Westbrick.
Which are three pretty great draft picks in a row.
And then you got a Bach in there somehow.
Yeah, lost Ibaka too.
He got Ibaka. He did. No, I should throw that in. That was like a half a star right there, but only a half. But just when it looked like Oklahoma City was headed for one last year with Russell Westbrook and one quick first-round playoff exit, boom, Sam Presti, out of nowhere, pulled off this deal, giving up, as you've talked about, an Oladipo who never quite clicked with Russ. I don't know, it just never quite right.
Because Oladipo's not a knockdown jump shooter, right? He plays a very similar style to Westbrick. Slasher, attack the basket, very, very streaky from the outside. And that's not going to work. Not with Westbrick, because Oladipo's not tall enough to bring any diversity to their overall scheme. They needed a tall two guard or a tall wing to guard the taller wings around the NBA. Oladipo couldn't do that. That's why they had to give Roberson so many minutes, even though he couldn't score. All right, so that's how Paul George is going to help them. Paul George can play the 2 and the 3, and even depending on the team, he can even play the 4 defensively. All right, Oladipo can't do that, and plus Oladipo can't shoot.
and a Sabonis who averaged 6 points and 4 rebounds in his rookie year and shot 32% from the three-point line, which was a crusher for Oklahoma City, who had the worst three-point shooting in the league for much of the year. All that for Paul George. Really? That's all you got for Paul George? So you didn't have to give up an all-star, you didn't have to give up a first-round pick, and you got Paul George back, who has made 4 all-star teams. And by the way, Paul George has made first-team all-defense, 1 first team, and he's made 3 all-defensive teams. So
all of a sudden, Skip is talking up Paul George. Normally, he calls him George Paul, but now he wants to talk him up because he wants to make the case that he's going to team up with Westbrick and do some damage in the Western Conference. I don't know how good they're going to be. It all depends on Westbrick's, on his eagerness to share the ball, but we'll see.
So he can really defend,
Yes.
which is why he will make the perfect second fiddle to Russell Westbrook in ways Kevin Durant never would have made peace with.
Of course not. Why would he make peace with playing second fiddle to a player that he's better than? Durant has already showed that throughout his career he's better than Russell Westbrook. Why would he play second fiddle to him?
You know my thought about, I've called him George Paul because he's not that guy. He's not an alpha. He doesn't want to take over a team or games. He'll be the perfect fit for a Russell.
I disagree. Paul George wants to take over teams and take over games. He's just not good enough to do it. All right? He reminds me a lot of a Scottie Pippen. You know, he has a lot of his game is very, very reminiscent of a Scottie Pippen. He just is not that transcendent player who could take over a team like that.
Who is the ultimate alpha, the ultimate ball dominator, led by far. He set the single season record for just dominating the basketball.
Yes, and also he's up there with turnovers as well. Like I said, Russell Westbrook, the season that he had was one of the strangest seasons of all time. There's a reason why he won the Stockton a full MVP and the NBA MVP. Like, he's just probably one of the strangest players ever. Unbelievable athlete, unbelievable physical talent, but also one of the dumbest players as far as superstars that's probably ever played in the NBA. As far as his decision making and his brain farts. But again, Paul George to me is like a Scottie Pippen, great all around player, but not a dominant player. So we'll see.
And in the case of Paul George, he doesn't love taking the big late shots.
Yes, he does. He just doesn't make them.
Well, Russell led the league in clutch points last year with the 286 clutch points. That's the last 5 minutes of games within 6 points.
That's another example of the media manipulating stats. All that means is that Russ had the ball in his hands all the time, especially down the stretch, and took all the shots.
And this guy will be the perfect fit because he'll just get his points in the flow. He'll concentrate on playing defense. He'll let Russell take all the big late shots. He won't mind it if Russell dominates the basketball the last 5 minutes of close games.
Will he show up?
He won't mind it because he knows that he's only got to do this for 1 year. That's why he's not going to mind it.
Joe had a problem with Thaddeus Young taking that last shot.
No, he didn't. He did because he knew he didn't take it.
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is he said he should have got that ball back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's what he said.
C.J. Miles.
C.J. Miles, excuse me, not Thaddeus Young.
Okay.
C.J. Miles, yeah.
Who's a very good player. But in that game, that was game 1.
Yes.
I thought Paul George turned down 2 late shots. He had 2 late chances.
I agree. He did turn down the ball a couple times down the stretch of game 1.
So all of a sudden, here comes a guy who's the flip side of Kevin Durant to me. He's not going to stew about it. He's not going to fret about it. He's not going to get increasingly frustrated over a guy whose usage rate was the record-setting for an NBA season last year. So I don't know how you could have picked a better co-star than Paul George. And all of a sudden, they're back in the mix. I'm not saying they're going to win the West, but I think they could win a round of the playoffs depending on who their draw is.
And that's all they've done.
Yeah.
On paper, the Timberwolves are better than OKC.
Yeah, they are, but that's a coaching issue. I think Thibodeau's the most overrated coach in the NBA. He's a regular season coach. He runs his players into the ground. He doesn't make good adjustments in the playoffs, and he's terrible from an offensive concept perspective. He's still playing in the 90s era where you just give the ball to one guy and move everybody out the way and let him dominate. All right, he really doesn't understand modern day NBA offense. There's no way in the world that that team with the talent that they had should have been 31 and 51 last year or whatever their record was. They didn't even win 35 games. You have Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins and Levine for much of the season, and you mean to tell me you can't get to 37, 38 wins at least?
Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins,
they got Taj Gibson.
and Taj Gibson. So which lineup would you rather have?
You know, I'm intrigued by this because the guys who have been there, the kids who have been there, for whom I have, especially Karl Anthony Towns, big fan of, I can't believe they went 31 and 51 last year with that much firepower, and they gave up Zach LaVine, as you point out, but
And Chris
still,
Dunn.
yeah. So now you add a Jimmy Butler who gives them veteran star power and expertise. He knows how to do it.
23, 24
Yeah.
points a game.
So I get that, and I'm good with that, but I'm not sure they're a contender yet. I'm just not sure because those kids are going to have to rise and
But
shine.
I believe they make the playoffs for the first time in a very
They got a
long
real
time.
shot.
Skill.
That's a stretch out west, Shannon. I don't know. I don't know if they make the playoffs, man. That's a stretch. You still got Portland out there. You got a lot of teams. Portland added who they add? Did they add the brother from the Hawks?
George Jefferson, George Jetson, George Paul, George Washington. As long as Paul George was in the East, he could have had any other George you want to name. He wasn't beating LeBron. Skip, let's be real. Okay, so now instead of the 6th seed, what are they? 5, 4? They went around the
You got
playoffs.
to give them a shot.
I give them a shot at winning a round. They didn't gain any traction on the Warriors. They did nothing to the Spurs. The Spurs will be the Spurs. And Houston, I believe Houston are still a better team.
I don't know about that one. I don't know how well Chris Paul and Hardhead are gonna fit together. Both of them are very emotionally immature. Both of them are very selfish in their own way. I could see that imploding very soon, but we'll see.
I believe Minnesota on paper will have a better record than the OKC Thunder.
I'm not sure about Houston, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Thank you.
Here's the thing. So let me get. I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Got to up my jacket on. I got
You unbutton?
I got to up my jacket because I want to talk to you.
Is it strangling?
No. Skip.
Some movement.
Yeah, because So I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Russell Westbrook had a guy on his team that was a 4-time league scoring champ. He was an MVP player. He possessed the 4th highest scoring playoff average of over 28 points a game in NBA history. And Russell would not cede to him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shannon.
Russell, in turn, when Kevin leaves, gets 42 triple-doubles. Broke a record that no one, I heard Magic say it over and over. Nobody, not the Grimes of night in, night out, will break that 41 triple-doubles in a season.
Magic just talks shit. Magic is one of those guys. He throws so many compliments out there. You can't even take him seriously. The only time I've ever heard him really criticize somebody was when he criticized Westbrook in the 2012 finals when he said that Westbrick probably had the worst game that a point guard's ever had in the finals.
Season. He's now the MVP. And you think he's going to cede what? To who? Paul George is a very good player. Kevin Durant is on Mount Everest. And Paul George is maybe going up.
I thought you were going to put Kevin on Mount Rushmore.
No. Kevin Durant is on Mount Everest.
Just all by himself.
Right now.
Above the king. He's the
Stop,
new king.
Skip, no.
I think that's just what you said, right?
I said Everest, Mount Rushmore. But Paul George is in Arizona.
Everest higher than Rushmore? I think it's way higher.
It's the highest point but here's the thing. All things being equal, would you say I scaled Mount Everest or my face is on Mount Rushmore for perpetuity? Because guess what, Skip?
I don't know.
There'll be about 200 people this year alone, maybe 250, that will scale up Mount Everest.
Yeah, and somebody will probably die trying, right?
And they hire these Sherpas.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. Paul George is on the Camelback in Arizona. He's a totally different player than Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a 4, 5, 6 times superstar.
I agree.
Paul George is a star player, but he's not the super duper star that Kevin Durant is.
Nope.
Now, it's going to work because Paul George is a great catch and shoot shooter.
I wouldn't go that he's a great catch and shoot shooter. Kevin Durant actually was a great catch and shoot shooter. Paul likes the ball in his hands, and he likes to orchestrate the offense. He likes things to run through him. It's going to be interesting to see if he can take second fiddle and become more of an off-the-ball player offensively.
He will not ruffle feathers like Kevin Durant did. But what did Kevin Durant do with the first chance he got? He left. What is Paul George going to do the first chance he gets? He's leaving. Because, Skip, you can't win with that. Here's a man that wouldn't cede to the MVP, the scoring champ, and a top 5 playoff scoring average guy. He comes back as the MVP, and now you think he's willing to cede some of that power to Paul George?
No, he won't.
I think
he doesn't need to.
Here's my question, Skip, and I think they're going to with Paul George and Russell, they're a good team. But are we going to see the Steven Adams that played like he played before he got that $20+ million contract, or the one we see afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're going to see the one from before, because now Russell has that. Now he's had his Kobe Bryant mid-2000s year where he got to just basically just ball out and just, do whatever he wanted to with the basketball. Now they brought in Paul George. I think the days of Russell getting cheap rebounds and getting all these triple doubles to, push his stats and over the top, I think those days are over. So I think that with Paul George coming onto the team, that spells a good sign for a lot of these supporting cast members of the OKC Thunder. Now they know, okay, it'll probably be a more democratic offense. We'll see.
What about their bench? You keep talking about LeBron's bench. What about their bench? Because they lose Taj. They can't. The third best player on the roster, they can't play in his candidate in the playoffs because he can't guard anybody. He can't guard a park car with a Uzi.
Okay.
So he couldn't even play.
But you just added a premier defender to another premier defender in Robertson, who played the heck
But he
out
can't
of
shoot free throws, Skip.
Okay, but you got a better defensive team than you had a year ago. Taj Gibson, you know what? I love him. He sort of looks and acts the part, but he doesn't play the part inside. He does not dominate on defense.
Taj is a backup. He's a bench player. That's what he is. Like Skip says, he looks and acts the part of a star player. He looks and acts the part of a tough guy. But Taj give you good 10, 12 minutes. That's it.
On the defensive end, he's not big enough.
He'll give you the 12 to 13 points a night. He'll give you the 6 to 7 rebounds a night. He'll throw an assist. He'll get you a couple of blocks. That's what he's going to Skip. They got 24-point score, and Karl Anthony Towns averaged about 25, 26. Andrew Wiggins averaged about 24, 25. Jimmy Butler averaged 20. They don't need score from Taj. They don't need but a little bit.
Yeah, but they do need some better point guard play. All right? They do need some better point guard play. So Jeff Teague is going to have to really step his game up. Jeff Teague is going to have to play well, and the brother Jeff Teague has a lot of talent. He's coming off of an injury from a couple of seasons ago. Hopefully he's rebounded from that. They have a lot of talent on Minnesota. To me, this is going to be a referendum on Thibodeau, who I think is very overrated. I think he gets way too much credit. I think he's a regular season coach. I think he burns his guys out. I think he does too much yelling. And he's one of those guys who stays in the office 22 hours a day. And, sometimes to me, if you really know what you're doing, you don't have to put in 22 hours out of 24 hours, Well, let's see what happens.
Is Oklahoma City better than it was a year ago? Yes.
Yes. I mean,
okay, you got to give it up. Give some credit to the GM. He just pulled a rabbit out of his hat.
Skip. Before Victor Oladipo can put the O on the end of his name, Sam Presti realized what a terrible deal he was giving Victor Oladipo. He was just like, what have I just done? Mm-hmm. How do I get out of this? Even if it's only a rental. Because basically what they did, Skip, you go to these luxurious rentals and you get a Ferrari, you just rent it. It's not yours, but you put rims on it, you tint the windows, you put a nice system in it. You got to take that car back. That's not yours. You gave up Oladipo. You gave up Sabonis, who's nothing like his father, Arvydas, even though he came late in his career. He was a heck of an international player. You remember from Lithuania.
Maybe the kid turns into this, but I'm not seeing it yet.
Sabonis was a good NBA player. They say that he was this dominant player back in the 80s when he was international. He most likely was, but in the NBA, he's most remembered for Shaq dunking on his head every which way.
And I didn't see it in college either.
Paul George did not he and his representatives did not leap that I'm opting out of my contract, and my preference is to go to the Lakers, to go to OKC and stay for 4 or 5 years.
Okay, all right, I got it. But there's still a chance that Paul George clicks with Russell Westbrook and really loves playing a little bit in Russell's shadow. And maybe they both find a comfort zone, because Russ likes playing in Oklahoma City. Kevin liked playing in Oklahoma. He liked the city and the culture and the climate that the fans bring to the games. It might be the loudest crowd in the league. I know Golden State's is loud, but this is college loud.
I give OKC about a 10% chance to retain Paul George, and to me that's high, particularly for a guy who really has his sights set on playing with the Lakers. I give them a 10% chance because, like Skip said, they have a good organization, they have a great crowd, but a lot of it's going to be determined on Russell Westbrick and how he plays. All right, a lot of these scenarios and these situations are referendums on certain people. All right, the people who have the power are the ones that you have to look to when certain other people decide to depart or decide to stay, because they're the ones who establish the atmosphere of the organization. They establish the culture. So guys like a Thibodeau or a Russell Westbrick, when you see guys constantly leaving them, it's a them problem. All right. It's like these people who want to run around and complain about, like sometimes you see these liberal black women. Oh, black men is black. No, you've been with 35 black men. They none of those relationships have worked out. You're the only X factor. All right. You the problem. So this is why I look at Westbrick. This is a referendum on him. I'm not going to entirely blame him if Paul George leaves, because we know that's already what he wants to do. But if Paul George leaves and he has slick things to say about Westbrick, okay, now that's the second star you've had who said that. Really the third, because even Ibaka, I wouldn't put him in the star category, but Ibaka has things to say about Westbrick.
You notice, you follow that Durant? Mm-hmm. From Nome to Anchorage?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's from Anchorage to Nome.
I haven't actually raced in it, if that's what.
But it's 1,100. It's a sled dog race.
Yeah.
Sled dog.
I know what it is.
Huskies and Mountain. If you notice, when the lead dog is no longer able to lead, they don't put him back in the pack.
Mm-hmm.
They retire it. When you've been lead dog, Paul George has been lead dog.
But he's been lead dog on a slow sled. So Shannon, he has to retire to the back of the pack.
It's hard.
I don't think he wanted to be lead dog. I think he's going to like this. So
I agree. I think that Paul was the lead dog on the Pacers, not by choice, but by necessity. Contractually, he was stuck there, and Indiana's not bringing any free agents in there. They have to draft well.
So my point is, Sam Presti at least now has a chance that these two will click in Oklahoma City and say, you know what? We like it here. Let's commit together to stay. What if they win 2 rounds of the playoffs? What if they say we're just one more player away?
Hold on. Whoa.
Shannon, I think, caught the same thing I caught. I don't think Skip realized what he's saying. For you to say that, okay, she's going to win 2 rounds of the playoffs, that means they're either beating San Antonio or Golden State in the second round. Right? Because one of those teams is going to be either 1 and 2. Right? Both of those teams are going to take the 1 and 2 slot, I should say. Right? At worst, they're going to be 1 and 3. Those 2 teams. So when you say that they're going to win 2 rounds, they're going to have to beat, they have to beat 2 of those teams most likely, or one of those teams in the second round. Pardon me.
Whoa! I need you put on brakes right quick. To win 2 rounds, that means they're going to have to beat Golden State. They're going to have to beat Spurs, and they're going to have to beat the Rockets. Is that what you're saying?
Beat the Rockets is highly possible, which is our next topic. I think the Rockets just got worse.
For OKC to beat the Rockets in the second round, OKC would have to be the 3 seed and the Rockets the 2 seed, right? Or vice versa. I don't think that Skip really understands what he's saying. I think only Shannon understood.
I think you know what it is. I think your love and your admiration, your blind love for Russell Westbrook, his guy you.
And you used to have it,
but you got it now.
He was pretty great last year.
Skill.
I thought he was pretty great against Houston in the playoffs. You give him Paul George, they might just flip that script on Houston. You stick CP3 on the Rockets, and they're all messed up. You just might flip that script.
Why you hoping?
Let's talk about the Rockets.
Well, I think that Russell Westbrook, he was great last year in the same way that a Comet is great. It's beautiful to look at in the sky as it's falling to the ground. All right, that's Westbrick. He doesn't really know how to pace himself. He doesn't understand the game. And he burns himself out because he plays too hard early. He doesn't pace himself. He doesn't understand proper cadence. But those are all things that hopefully for his sake he'll learn as he gets older. All right, but what will PG fit in with OKC? We'll see. We will see. All right, so the great Oscar Robertson, he sat down and made some statements regarding Russell Westbrick. I thought that they were very pertinent to add onto this video for context because he kind of spoke subliminally in a way that you have to really examine his words to understand what he was saying without saying it. So let's see what he had to say.
And what better place to begin than with the league MVP, Mr. Russell Westbrook. He spent this past season doing something that has not been done in 50 years, average a triple-double. And days before West broke Oscar Robertson's record for most triple-doubles in one season, well, I sat down with the Big O to put that into context. Take a look.
Westbrook sees a seam. Westbrook shows from the basketball.
To me, that left-handed dunk by Westbrook, that was the dunk of the season. That wasn't even nominated for dunk of the season. I mean, he yoked it on somebody to close the game out with the left hand. That was better than Oladipo's dunk. That was better than Larry Nance Jr.'s dunk. I have no idea why he didn't win dunk of the season on that.
What has it been like for you to watch Russell Westbrook this season?
I think he's a great athlete. I mean, he's tenacious. He's so quick up and down the floor. Just hope he doesn't wear out.
Now, you heard what Oscar said? She asked him, what's it been like to watch Russell Westbrook? He didn't say, oh, he's a great player. He's making his teammates better. He's helping them win. He said, oh, he's a phenomenal athlete. Basically, he runs fast and jumps high. All right. He says something very similar to what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said in the video that I made earlier during the NBA season. When Kareem was asked point blank by Rachel Nichols, would he want to play with Russell? And he pretty much said no, right, without saying it. Because he understands that Russell, like I've likened Russell unto before, he's a great action star. If you were to compare the NBA to Hollywood, right? Russell Westbrook would be like Sylvester Stallone in the 80s or Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? You watch his movie and you'd be highly entertained, but that movie's not going to win an Oscar.
Defenses are going to start doing certain things to him. They might push him, they might run into him and try to get him upset. The kid is outstanding, to be honest. I mean, he's really outstanding. I think he's done a lot for basketball this year.
If he does pull off a triple-double for the season and you're not the only one anymore, what will you think of that?
Now, notice Oscar said that he's done a lot for basketball. I believe he was alluding to, and he's going to specify a little bit more a little later, I believe he was alluding to the NBA narrative that was coming into this season about the triple-double, because they knew that they had to sell a sub-narrative because the main narrative wouldn't play out until the finals, which was Golden State and their rubber match with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Russell and his the sub story, that was essential for the NBA regular season. They needed him, and he did his job.
I'll congratulate him. I think it's wonderful. I didn't know I had the record, to be honest. So this is where I am with it. My game is behind me. Whatever I did in those days is fine.
Oscar, stop lying. You knew you had the record for triple doubles in a season, brother. Just stop. All right, just stop. For those of you who don't know, Oscar Robertson was very, very a highly, highly intelligent man, which is why he's so tortured now. All right, being highly intelligent oftentimes can be a curse as well as a blessing, and he has to deal with that. He attended the Crispus Attucks High School in, I believe it was Indianapolis, and they were the #1 high school in the state of Indiana academically, even though it was an so-called all-black school.
This is the new age. People want to see great stars play. They want to see guys get triple doubles and shoot three-point shots, and they want highlights.
Russ is also a candidate for the MVP award, but different voters have different ideas about how important what he is doing is.
Well, I mean, for what he's done, I think he deserves it. There are other candidates as well. And, years ago when I played, the MVP came from the team that won, no matter what you did.
So what is Oscar really saying? He's saying that, nowadays they reward you for individual stats. That's why people are cognizant of things like triple doubles. Oscar's basically saying if I knew that getting triple doubles was a big deal, I could have got one in all 80 or 82 games, how many games they were playing back then. All right? He's saying it would have been nothing. That's why he said I didn't keep track of it, because he said it came so easy to me, you know. And I'm a firm believer that OKC paid him to come out there. You know, that game where he said Russell Westbrook MVP, all that shit. That he was paid to come out there and do that shit. He didn't do that out of the kindness of his heart. Oscar don't give a shit about all that. They paid for his flight out there, and they paid for him to say that, to endorse Westbrick.
Now, Russell's historic season earned him MVP honors, but it was one of the closest races in recent memory. That's because James Harden,
Yeah, well, it was close because that you know, that was part of the NBA narrative for the season, right? James Harden, he's another regular season player, but Westbrick, at least you know he's going to give it his all in every game. But I just wanted to add that in for some context to Oscar Robertson. Like I said, he did go to Crispus Attucks High School. Crispus Attucks, by the way, was a so-called black man who was killed during the Revolutionary War. And the Crispus Attucks High School, that was the #1 ranked academic high school in Indiana, even though it was all black school, just to show you don't have to go to a so-called Caucasian school to excel. They were able to do it, even though, you know, they were also the victims of a lot of so-called racism. There's a great documentary about Oscar Robertson that you can watch on YouTube if you guys Google it. I can't remember the name of it. It was about 50 minutes long, but he was going into a lot of the things that they had to deal with back then. But anyway, peace.